Hey, what's up guys? It's Heaven11 here, and today we are trying something new on the channel. We are going for a Premier League predictions video for the 2019-2020 season. If you guys think these videos are good, you want to see more of these sorts of things, I will gladly do them. I want to start doing more podcast, live video sorts of things, and we'll move into FIFA 20 content here very soon. But without further ado, let us jump straight into the predictions here. I have a lot of notes. It could be a very long video, but it should be a good video. And so we'll just move on into it. We'll start off with Arsenal. They have made some good signings with Ceballos and Pepe coming in. They also have potentially signing Coutinho in on the season on loan. That's a very good move. It'll feel like it'll help out the midfield situation there. If you have Ceballos and Ozil and Coutinho and you have Guendouzi sliding in, it could be a very strong midfield. They really ignored their defense, which was a very bad move, ignoring that, because their defense isn't the strongest. Socrates is a good defender. Bernd Leno is a good goalkeeper. Kolasinac has his moments. Monreal has his moments. Bellerin, if he stays healthy, has his moments. But the defense as a whole is not a great defense. They needed definitely a center back at least, and they didn't get it. They did reportedly try and go in for Rugani, but they didn't get him. And it's a glaring issue that they didn't get a center back. And I feel that it could be detrimental, but with the offensive power they've got, I could see them outscoring a lot of opponents and winning their games. And this is Unai's second season in charge, and he's had a lot of time to work with the team. He has a lot of time to install his philosophies. So I feel in total, shouldn't be that hard of a season for him. I'm going with them in fourth.
Cheers, Jeff.
Moving into the next team, we are going with Aston Villa. I'm going to do these in alphabetical order. They have signed a lot of freaking players. They have signed, I think, 13 players in total. Some of the players were players that they had last season, but they re-signed them if they were on loan or that sort of thing. But 13 players is a lot of players. They haven't sold that many. And I could see him pulling a Fulham. They're a great club, though, and they have a lot of good history. Their Premier League record is fairly solid. They've brought in good players. They have a good core. Grealish and El Ghazi are good attacking players. Wesley could be a good striker. Heaton's a good goalie. But overall, it'll take a bit of a change for them because it is the step up. They haven't been in the Premier League for 3 seasons now. And with all these signings, they haven't sold a lot of players either. They didn't lose a lot of their squad depth, but it's maybe not the best to have a massive squad like they do. And so could be a very beneficial season, could be a very rough season for them. And so I have Villa in 15th.
Cheers, Jeff.
Next, we are moving into Bournemouth. They held on to their core. Eddie Howe's done a good job of keeping Wilson and Ake at the club, although Ake could still leave. He could go to Leicester because this video's been recorded before the transfer deadline day happens. But holding on to Wilson was a good move. They have a good signing in Billing from Huddersfield. He strengthens their midfield and defense. Overall, though, a lot of their other signings didn't bring a lot of the huge quality that I figured they might have brought in. Like, I really felt that they could have done with a newer goalkeeper. Begovic is older, didn't have the best season last year. And they could have done with maybe a newer goalie just to freshen up the back line a bit. And they could have done with center back maybe just to freshen up that back line once again. But I do think they didn't have the worst business. And Eddie Howe is a good manager. He's kept them up. They have a lively squad, and I see them finishing in 12th.
Cheers, Jeff.
Now we move on to my team. We're going to judge Brighton. I feel they signed up a lot of attacking and defensive players, which was a very big key for them. And they really needed an attack. We're relying on a 35-year-old Glenn Murray to score us a lot of goals. And I think Maupay, I'm not exactly how sure you say his name yet, and Trossard, good attacking signings if they work out. The defensive signings, we brought in Clark and we brought in Webster. They could be very good defensive signings, especially if we lose Lewis Dunk. I feel Webster will be the guy to slot in. They could be good signings. The thing is, last year we thought we had good signings when we brought in Jahanbakhsh and Bernardo. Bernardo had a goodish season. Andon as well. Andon had a goodish season. He had moments. Jahanbakhsh basically never saw first team football, which hurt him a lot, but it ultimately got Houghton sacked. And so we have our new manager, Graham Potter. Unproven in the Premier League. I feel it could have been a bit better of an appointment choosing a championship manager, but he could pull something out of the hat. He could have a really good season overall. And at least we haven't sold Lewis Dunk yet. Leicester just sold Maguire yesterday. So I feel if they bring in Lewis Dunk, if we sell him for a very good fee, I will be less appalled that we let go of one of our better defenders. Or if we could just keep him in general, that would be really nice. He has a very surefire center back for us, and it would be nice to keep him and Duffy paired up for another season, at least to try and keep us Premier League safety. But even despite if we lose him or not, I feel like we will finish in 16th. 16th seems like a very solid position. It'll be a bit of a dogfight, but it'll be a solid finish overall.
Cheers, Jeff.
Next up, we have Burnley, and they really didn't sign anyone. But Sean Dyche is a good manager. He plays good football for just getting results that they need. Peters and Rodriguez are good-ish signings. Rodriguez could perform well for him like he did in past. But they did lose some depth players. I think they lost Clark and they lost Heaton, I know for sure. But it could be a bit of a rougher season for him. They had a bounce-back season after Europe. I feel this could be a bounce-back season. Could be another bit of a dogfight for him for a little bit, but I feel like they will finish overall in 14th.
Cheers, Jeff.
And now we are judging Chelsea. I'm going to call this Lampard's free season. Transfer ban is really messed him up, and his expectations should be very low. A very beneficial season for them in the long run due to the youth finally getting a chance. Loftus-Cheek, Hudson-Odoi, Batshuayi could all slot in very easily into that team. Their midfield is very solid. I feel Conte will have a major role in keeping this team in their top 6 contention. Yes, losing Hazard was a massive blow, but it opens up the way for them to realize what they are without him and see that they have all of this youth and experience around this team. And I feel Lampard, although he's unproven, he has the low expectations, so it'll probably do him a little bit more justice. They could have a rougher year. They could have some really high moments and some really low moments throughout the year. But I do feel like Lampard will do the job. He'll get them at least European football. He won't lose out to like an Everton or a Leicester or a West Ham or a Wolves. But it won't be the greatest of seasons that they've had. They won't be anything ridiculous. They probably won't push for a title at all this season, I don't feel. But they do have a very solid core. Youth is very good in this team, and the youth should prove to be one of their big beneficiaries of the season. And that's why I see them slotting into 6th. They won't lose out on anything, but they won't have the greatest of seasons.
Cheers, Jeff.
Next up, we have Crystal Palace, Brighton's rivals. Keeping Zaha was a big plus for him, but it's not a guarantee yet. They still have January, and they still have 3 days in the transfer window to possibly lose him. And I feel if they lose him, it could be a really long season. I have them and Newcastle dogfighting it out for that 18th spot and 17th spot. And I feel Cahill was a solid free transfer. I don't think he'll be crucial. I don't think he'll slot in next to Sakho right away. I don't feel he'll be a bad signing though, especially being a free transfer. You can't really go wrong with having someone with that type of experience on them. Jordan Ayew was another signing, but he's scored 1 goal in like 20-something games, and he just doesn't look impressive to me, and they don't have a consistent goal scorer yet. They haven't for a while now. And it's not looking great for him. Hudson is a solid manager, especially for a team like Crystal Palace. But Crystal Palace is in a really tough situation. They haven't found a goal scorer in a while. They don't have the greatest squad. So I currently have them in 17th, but them and Newcastle will have a dogfight, and especially if they lose Zaha, I could see them being 18th team as well.
Cheers, Jeff.
Next up, we move on to Everton. Everton is in a good position. Their manager, Silva, he has had the full preseason. He had last season. He really figured out his squad. He's made good signings, bringing back Gomez, bringing in Moise Kean. Moise Kean, I feel, is going to be a really good signing for them if he can prove himself at the number 9 like he was doing towards the end of the season for Juventus. And their defense, although a little bit aging, was still impressive at times, but losing Idrissa Gueye does hurt them a lot, I feel. And only bringing in Gbamin, I'm not exactly sure how to say his name, but he's the Mainz midfielder that they brought in. I honestly don't feel he's the surefire replacement for Idrissa Gueye right away. And I feel our midfield will have that hole, and it'll lead to more defensive breakdowns in the end for the season. But I do feel they will have a solid season. They won't quite crack the top 6 yet. They do have the squad potential to get there eventually. I could see them battling out with Chelsea and Man U here in the future seasons. But I do still have them finishing in 7th.
Cheers, Jeff.
And next up, we move to the team that is also very likely to challenge, I feel, for another top 6 spot here in the future, and that is Leicester City. They have good additions by bringing in Ayoze Perez and re-signing Tielemans after his loan from Monaco. Losing Maguire does suck, but it's not the end-all, be-all of their season. I feel they will still have a solid season with or without Maguire. They do have plenty of time in these 3 days to find a suitable replacement, because I'm sure they were lining up replacement bids already. Lewis Dunk looks very likely to go there. I know from being a Brighton fan, he is a very solid player. He will work in that defense. Brendan Rodgers is building a really nice young core that will look very good in the Premier League here in a few seasons. Harvey Barnes is looking good. Demarai Gray was looking good towards the end of last season. Brendan Rodgers made Vardy very good towards the end of the season there. I could see Leicester having another solid season, maybe not quite yet in the top 6 Europe hopes, but I do see them finishing in 8th.
Cheers, Jeff.
We have the 2 big clubs. We have Liverpool and Man City. Liverpool didn't bring in anyone major, but I also don't feel that they really needed to. I thought they were going to go out and they were going to try and get a really solid depth, so they had a lot of depth that they could play, like Man City has a lot of depth that they work with. And Liverpool really didn't do that. They brought in 2 young center backs, or a center mid and a center back, and they brought in Adrian to be a backup because they sold Mignolet. And to me, that lack of signings is going to cost them the title. Yes, I know Klopp is a great manager. He's done a lot of great things for this club. They just aren't Premier League winners yet. I could see them doing some more cup and European success. I could see them having a lot of that. Premier League-wise, they don't have the squad depth to compete with City over across the 38-game season. Maybe in like one-off games they could play them very well, but over the course of a whole season, I don't quite see it yet. But I do feel they will have a good season. It'll just be a little bit disappointing at times, but they should have a great season still. I know they had a really strong season last year, and I could see them having another season like that, and I see them finishing in 2nd.
Cheers, Jeff.
And now we have the two-time Premier League champions stepping up to the plate. They signed Rodri and Angelino. Angelino replaces Delph leaving, and Rodri is just another center midfielder that they brought in for more depth, which is crazy how deep this squad is for them. No one else challenges them but Liverpool, which is kind of the Premier League killer for me, is that they have only just one team competing against this team that I would personally call a super team. They are a modern age super team in my opinion. They're a class above a lot of the teams in the Premier League. They could honestly have 2 teams go out there and still make top 10 with both. They need to prove themselves in Europe this year, because to me they're a very disappointing European team. They've proven themselves in England. They've won so many trophies these last 3 years, but they haven't proven themselves in Europe. So if they want to take that focus, they could take that focus in Europe and lose out on more domestic titles and that. But I personally don't see them not being champions, and so I have them in first. And Guardiola looks set. He has brought in that depth, and this will be City's 5th title in 9 seasons, and I don't see anyone who will be able to challenge that other than Liverpool, and Liverpool just doesn't look set to do that yet. I could see Liverpool pushing here in the future if they bring in some more serious depth, but for now, I do have Man City winning the Prem.
Cheers, Jeff.
Manchester United have spent a stupid amount of money on Harry Maguire. 80 million is too much. De Ligt and Van Dijk were cheaper than Maguire, and both were better. Maguire's not worth 80 mil. It's desperation purchase, I feel, and it's really sad to see how bad they look when they spend 80 million on a player who's just not worth it. Wan-Bissaka, he was worth about 50 to 65 million, somewhere in there, I think. He's a bit more worth the price range. He's younger. He's got a good future. He looked really good last season. James was cheap. He was a substitute. It will probably be a substitute. But this season really does depend on Pogba and his leadership ability. And he needs to step up. He needs to play better. He needs to be that player for him. If he's not that player, it'll be a longer season. It'll be tough for them. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is my favorite to be sacked by the end of the year. If Man United want any sort of big change, they can't really hold on to him that much longer. He, to me, is not the manager that's going to take them to glory again and challenge for Liverpool and City, which is also really sad that their rivals are looking so much better than Man United after Man United had such a dominance for a while that they're trying to regain dominance by spending just stupid fees on players that aren't worth it, and I see them finishing in 5th.
Cheers, Jeff.
Next up, we have Newcastle. And Newcastle, for me, if they still had Rafa Benitez, I'd instantly say they were safe. But because they have the new signings of Saint-Maximin and Joelinton and Willems, the center back, it shows a sort of commitment for Mike Ashley. It could be a false dawn, and it's just him spending because he could lose his investment in them and the big-time Premier League money. But Steve Bruce, I don't feel, is the manager that's going to get the best out of those players. If they still had Rafa Benitez, I would instantly feel that he was going to keep them up, and these sort of players that they brought in, they could almost be pushing above top, like be 12th almost. But because they only have a championship-level manager, they've lost a lot of strikers, and Joelinton has not proved himself yet as a bona fide Premier League striker. I am worried for them this season. I do think they could squeeze it out here towards the end if they do fire Steve Bruce and bring in someone who can keep them up. But I currently have them in 18th.
Cheers, Jeff.
And now we move on to Norwich. Their championship style of play was ridiculous. They had great attacking football and they looked really good, but I don't feel that they will be able to produce that in the Prem, mainly because they haven't spent. They brought in a lot of free transfers, and their free transfers, like, yes, I agree, Farman and Dermich were good signings. They could work out in the squad. They could be very good signings for him. Farka he looks set up to have a squad that he's comfortable with. I don't think it's a Premier League squad. I don't think they're ready for the step up. They don't even have a really good track record in the Premier League. And that factors into me putting them in 19th.
Cheers, Jeff.
Now we have Sheffield United. When Phil Jagielka is your biggest signing, you don't look very well off to be in the Premier League. Ollie McBurney was a good signing. He proved himself in the Championship with Swansea. But it just, their squad to me looks really poor off. They don't look like a Premier League squad yet even to me. And I don't see them staying up. Yes, their manager is a huge part of why they're up here. But I don't feel he'll be able to produce in the Premier League. And I do see them going down without much of a fight. They do need more proven Prem talent. And that's basically it for me. And I have them in 20th.
Cheers, Jeff.
Now we move on to Southampton, who I feel Ralph Hasenhüttl I feel that's how you say his name, has done what he needed to do. He brought in a lot of attacking players. He brought in DeJempo, Adams, and Ings permanently, which they did need. They did need striking options. They did need attacking power. And I feel Adams was a good championship player, and he proved himself there, and I feel he could maybe make the step up. Danny Ings was maybe not the most consistent when he was there on loan, but he does look like he'll be very solid. And so I feel now that Hasenhüttl has had a full preseason with them, he has worked out some of the kinks that was in the squad during the summer. And I feel, even though they haven't made crazy, ridiculous signings, I feel it was enough. They have enough of a squad to definitely keep them up. They do look very well set, and they do look like they'll have a lot better seasons than they have recently. And so I have put them in 11th for that.
Cheers, Jeff.
Tottenham have finally spent some cash in a transfer window. Tottenham did not spend anything in the transfer window, either or, last season. And Ndombele is a great midfield signing for them. It strengthens that really strong midfield that they already have. Pochettino is a great manager. I rate him really highly for the work he has done with the squad. And they've held on to the core, which is great. Alderweireld, Vertonghen are still there. Lloris is still there. Yes, they lost Trippier, but I feel Davies and Walker-Peters could have a breakout season if he gets the start. Who knows who's going to get the start there right now. But I feel if they can hold on to Eriksen too, even if they don't, Dele Alli is a very solid attacking midfield option for him. Heung-min Son has had flashes of brilliance in these last few seasons, and the Champions League final last season that they achieved, just being there, is a really good sign for me of great things to come for this Tottenham club if they can piece it together in England. It just sucks that their timing is with a Liverpool strong team and the super team Man City, so I only have them finishing in third.
Cheers, Jeff.
Now we move on to Watford. They didn't bring in anyone big, which I felt they have a really aged back line, and that back line really needs improvements. They don't really need improvements, they just need a freshen up. That's for sure. They definitely needed a fresher new goalie. Gomez signed another one-year deal, and he's like going to be 35, 36 this year. And that, to me, is not a good look that they have such an aged back line when they're trying to push so hard because they were in the FA Cup final last year. Although the FA Cup final didn't work out too well for them. They do have a really good squad. If they hold on to Doucouré, he could possibly go to Everton. But holding on to Deulofeu was a very good move. And I feel it'll be just another solid season for Watford, and so I have them only finishing in 13th.
Cheers, Jeff.
West Ham have done some serious business this summer, bringing in Pablo Fornals and Sebastian Haller, and sold off Arnautovic, who was not the team player that they needed. Haller definitely will be. Fornals slots into a midfield that's already really strong. Defense side, Fabianski is a very good player, but the defense is not the most solid defense in the Prem. I feel if it was more solid, I would have them up much higher. Balbuena had flashes last year where he looked very good. Issa Diop could slot in if he starts to learn to play in the Prem a bit better. They definitely need a revamp in that back line if they want to really start pushing for Europe. They have a great attack and a great midfield, and I do rate them for that. They do have a very solid all-around squad. But I just don't feel like Pellegrini is going to piece it all together just yet. And I feel like they will only finish in 10th.
Cheers, Jeff.
And now we move on to the very last team of the prediction video. And we have Wolverhampton. Europe is going to take their toll on Wolverhampton, I feel. It did with Burnley, and we saw how poorly Burnley did after that. I know that Wolverhampton has a much better squad than Burnley did when they were in Europe. To me, they don't have the most solid-looking squad depth. Yes, they have young players that they're planning for the future. They could work them into some smaller cup fixtures, or just their manager is planning for the future, and so I feel that's a good look for them. They played really well last season. They spent the cash right. Bringing back Jimenez from his loan was a really good move for them. I don't see him finishing in the European place again, just due to only having really their squad depth added a little bit everywhere. Vallejo is a good signing, I will admit that. Catrone is a very good signing if he can produce in the Prem. But they look like they will be a very strong team. Europe is just going to do its effects on them. Once they make it out of Europe, though, and they could go really far in Europe, I know that much. Wolves could have a 7th place, even an 8th place season, but I feel they just haven't had that European experience yet. Yes, Wolves is very ready to have that experience, and they have a squad really worth seeing in Europe. I don't see them working it out in the Premier League, though. 38 games, plus you add on Europe now, and all the cup fixtures as well. Part of me just can't decide between 10th and 7th, who's going to finish where. But the only place I have left is 9th, and that is where I do see Wolves finishing.
Cheers, Jeff.
They will probably outperform 9th, and they will maybe finish in 7th, and West Ham could probably switch with Leicester, but this is how I see the Premier League table going. I hope you enjoyed the video. The video has taken a new sort of style. If you do like what you're seeing, though, please leave a like, drop some comments down below. Tell me where you think your team is going to finish, or just any critiques you have on the predictions I had. But yeah, this is my Premier League predictions video. Please let me know if you want to see many more of these. And for now, peace.